Receiving data. I'll tell you, Nico, when it starts. Okay, yep.
Raffingir, it's late in the afternoon, close enough to evening, and while the crew of the Nameless wait in Slane Thane Colskeg's hall, debating what is to be done next, you, Scarm, and some of the others, locals of Gunberg, have been tasked to go out and gather food, forage, and drink for the council that will come tonight. Most likely where a new captain will be chosen of the Nameless, and the next path trod will be chosen. But for now, you're prowling about the village where the choicest pickings have already been looted by crew members of the Nameless and crew members of the Spey brand, the ship of Eric Eriksson, who had come here with Black Eagle to aid you and the other warriors in the taking of Feistheimer. You've just exited one hovel, dodged around a stripped corpse, moving towards the next. You hear Scarm with his familiar whistle off across the muddy thoroughfare, investigating one of the other houses. But his sound and like the ambient sounds of Feistheimer, mortally wounded, disappear as you duck under the awning and begin to make your way inside for a cursory kind of exploration. Outside, there's a light sleet which hints at fouler weather. Behind, in here, it's only just noticeably less uncomfortable and cold. Outside, there's no fire here. It's not been stoked, and there's been a slaughter here. You see a man, one of his hands still tangled in the ruins of his belly, as he tried futilely to keep it in, and the other turned upended, just laying on the thrust-packed floor. One eye is open, the other's caked with blood, bruised. The open eye stares unseeing at you, marking your entry, and as you like silhouetted by the grey sleet behind you. Through hoar-frosted breath, you see the needful tool that had done the dealing. A bloodied spear lays nearby, a short one, not yet recovered by the warriors of the town, who now have eyes for other kinds of prizes. But examining the thing and there's so much blood on it, surely what did him in. And it's of Gunland make, though whether it belongs to one of the Nameless or the Spey brand, you couldn't tell. There's cups and jars of things that may be of small use, but nothing that you think would do the Nameless crew good for size. There's a small, humble folk here, and some warriors at least must have come in here stealing before you have. Just about to turn, accepting defeat in another hovel, you hear the sound of movement coming from behind the wall, behind the corpse. The shudder runs down your back and the hairs spring up at the nape. As at first your mind reels, considering that the corpse may have caused it, you banish such foolish thoughts and then hear the noise again.
As I turn around, do I see anything making movement, or is this outside the hovel?
It sounds like it's coming from somewhere like between the wall or floor nearby to the corpse. Definite movement, not like something flapped by the wind or left hanging.
I would like to. I made a cursory glance of the hovel. Can I tell if there's like a basement crawl space or any kind of storage beneath the house? Can I tell from the floor?
If you trace the floor, you can see where the packed earth gives way to rendering, and some like wooden structure that's been like mudded and daubed over. If you like slump the corpse away, you can see revealed behind his bloody smearing, there's a small low door which leads into like the cusp where the rendered wall meets the packed floor. It's about the size of I don't know, an adolescent could crawl through comfortably. Might be uncomfortable for you yourself to go through, but as the corpse kind of falls over with a and you press your ear to the bloody thatched low door, you can hear the sound of movement, breathing coming from within inside. Hurried now, no doubt, at the sound of the like jink and jangle of your war harness.
I'm gonna open the door. Actually, I'm gonna draw my 6 first and then open the door.
The fading light from behind you floods into this low hovel, and the great reek of pig shit and human filth assails you. It sends the world to reel for a couple of moments where you can bring a grimy forearm up toward the worst of it off. Moving in the shadows is a low, swollen, porcine figure, which screams a couple of times as you take step into the pig hollow.
You said it was a pig?
Mm-hmm.
Can I make an attack against this thing to try and just kill it outright?
Yeah, you could do so. It's cornered in here, we're larger, and the needful blade will pillage the skin of the pig, thrusting it through. It takes a couple more swipes till the screaming, hideous as it is, stops. The pig spasms a few times, and you can hear its life force leaking out over the pig shit and mud that your boots have gouged up. It's in the death throes of the pigs dying that you feel this hunter's sense of other prey inside the dark gloom here.
I almost, as if reliving the moment, as this my weapon enters the pig's flesh, I'm back in a shield wall for just a fleeting glance as the blood kind of flows out onto my boots. And that's when I recognize that there might be something else in there. Is it too dark in there for me to see clearly, or would I have to go in there to try and find whatever this thing is?
There's a prism of light that shot through the door, which kind of dissects the room into two gloomy halves. But after some moments in here, your eyes are already beginning to adjust. You see a humanoid figure crouched in the corner, visible now and known to you by its shaking and the faint glimmer of like steel or something like it playing with the edges of the light you've let in.
Come out. Come out right now.
The figure moves against its will, but not in a way of anything approaching compliance.
I cannot guarantee anything unless you come out here and face me.
A young adolescent form, swaddled in greys and whites, manifests out of the dark corner. Dagger first, then grimy, broke-nailed hand. Pallid skin smeared with pig shit up to elbows, too thin, and a shawl that's reeked and putrefied. A young girl's cracked-lipped face, wild eyes, and clattering teeth inside relax you somewhat as the stranger reveals himself. You suddenly feel less threatened, even despite her bared steel.
Do you aim to kill me? Is that what you would like?
Her nostrils flare, yes, but she gives you no words.
Do you think you could? I would stand from my more crouched position into a more full height.
She says in thick Sidska, I could kill a pig.
Aye, and so could I. And I would,
Badly.
should I try my hand at a child?
Her eyes level and you can see her clenching her jaws, trying to swallow down the fear your words stir.
Seems like you'd squirm less. Scream less. Is that what you want?
Slowly she shakes her head through like her shivering.
Well, I can give you your wish, or you can come with me. Can't say it'll be any better.
Her eyes look past you out onto the grisly street, pondering her fate. In your words, it's then I guess she sees the silhouette of the slumped body and the boots she recognizes, and her brown-toothed mouth is revealed. She opens it as if to scream.
If you scream, you're dead.
It catches in her throat, and so tears come out instead, and she reaffixes her warning posture with the dagger at you, almost mockingly, like as you would consider it, that you've killed men in the shield wall, and here is this feeble child threatening you.
You can walk out this hovel and never look back, or you can join him.
As she looks out the door, and you think that's an answer.
The fates haven't ended your tale here, but I can. Move. Out in the sunlight.
And she'll step away from the pig's corpse, and then simper and sob as she steps over, presumably her father's, out into the blood-spattered hovel, gathering rushes on her muddy pig-shitted feet before she steps over the same threshing you did and out onto the sleety street. Her mouth just falls agape at the slaughter and ruin.
I'll pick up the pig and kind of use some sort of knotted rope to affix it to my pack or harness or whatever. And as she's kind of gaping at this, I'm going to not push her down, but abrasively shove her to get her walking. Eyes up, forward, go.
And she'll take a few lumbering steps forward, look over her shoulder, and kind of jolt as you thrust her forward. And she'll step out, squelching with mud and blood, mingled into a darker brown, beginning her journey across the street when Skalm emerges from a hovel across the way, starts walking towards you. Some sense prickles you, and you take a second glance at him. It's not Skalm. It must be one of Eric's men, because you don't recognize the warrior. What have you got there, boy?
I'll raise up the pig. Dinner.
And her?
Hack silver at best.
He gives a sniff and looks up the way of the long haul and then back to you. My Carl said there was to be no thralling.
Very well. Perhaps she'll just clean up my shit for me.
Too much a woman for a boy like you. Give it to me.
And what would you do with her? You couldn't tell your ass from a hole in the ground.
The man sneers, and his hair lip shifts up to reveal jagged, buckled teeth at the front that slowly transforms into something like a snarl.
I suggest you find your own.
Roll intimidation.
I don't know if I'm good at intimidating. Okay, that's decent. Total of 15.
He snorts, gives a shrug of his stocky shoulders. He's shorter than you, but much wider, older, smash-nosed man. He'll take a few booted steps forward, with surprising speed, given his almost rotund stature. And with quick, corded arms, he goes up to grab the girl in front of you. And she rewards him with a slash across the cheek with her dagger. And all hell breaks loose. You roll initiative.
20 on the die. Let's burn this up now. Actually, 20 on the die, total of 23.
You're the first to react then.
I still have my knife in my hand. Shit. I'm going to mark him as my quarry as a bonus action. And I'm going to lash out almost in tandem behind this chick as he goes to reach for her. Not as good. 13 plus, plus 5, 18.
That hits.
For a total of 13 damage.
Oh, the dagger like stabs up into his ribs. Blood sprays out his nose as he falls forward, wheezing. Goes to like croak out an anguished moan, but it's just more of a piteous. And Tola's eyes go wide as her face is spattered with the attacker's blood. She's going to disengage and flee. She runs 30 feet away from the brawling warriors, instinct taking hold and flight. Agnar reaches for her futilely and then rounds on you, his back arcing up from where you'd thrust the blade, and he pulls his axe from his belt loop and, grabbing it in two hands, gives a whoa, a bloodied call as he tries to hack it into your midsection. A crit.
Damn.
Oof.
13 slashing damage, and the axe embeds itself, grinds up off the hip and then into the meat at the side of your gut.
Said 13.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, I have 1 HP left.
It's your turn. Man, like, smiles, coughing his own blood as he, like a drunkard, raises up the axe to finish you off.
Hunter points. I'm going to. All right, yeah, I'm just going to round again, but I'm gonna pull my shield from my back to defend me as I'm starting to bleed. But I'm gonna make another attack on him. 17 to hit.
That's a hit.
For a total of 11 damage.
The blade slides up into the front of his belly and his eyes go wide. He goes to protest the reek of onions and blood drizzling over his cracked, browned teeth. You smell his reek and see his death come over him. His vision fades from his eyes and his dead weight slumps and pulls the wet dagger from your hand with him down to the snowy street.
I, in a daze, look around me. I'm sure, like, between the sleet and the smoke of the raid, I'm disoriented. Do I see Skull anywhere?
You can hear the pounding of his footsteps and him calling, "Son, son," as he rushes towards you. You turn around and he seems to kind of whirl in a vortex for a moment before the vision settles. You see him growing larger, and you look the other way and see Tola growing smaller.
I think that this disorientation is almost enough. Just I retch, vomit, fall to my knees, reaching feebly for my knife as I'm trying to hold it together here, looking up at him.
He rushes over to you, pulls his cloak and shawl and begins to like wrap it tightly about your side, hauling you towards a nearby awning to get you out of the street. But he stops mid-track as he looks down at the widening pool of red around the sleet-crusted dead warrior nearby. "What have you done, Rafnir?"
You tried to kill me first.
He looks across at like the butchered pig you'd cast down into the muck, and a confused look goes over his face.
Some men can't distinguish ally from enemy.
Gives you a hard look, one he hasn't given you for some years. Then it falls away as he regards the dead man.
I think this is why I prefer the woods. The animals can't lie.
He nods in agreement and then will kind of put his arm under yours and lift you up and drag you over to a nearby hovel and then come back for the pig. There'll be a weird guild. Eric's men, or even Eric himself, they may claim it for that one. I saw him fighting on the beach.
Whatever must be done. I accept the consequences of my actions.
He nods approvingly. We'll leave you with the butchered Yule pig from Tola's hovel and go over to drag the corpse somewhere less ignoble than like the thoroughfare. And he'll go off to fetch the Varley-lander woman who suspects may know some healing prowess. After he comes to find you, Iris, Skalm tells you of the hovel where wounded Hrafngeir lays. He'll beg off and go seeking word with Eric Eriksson to tell him of the death of one of his men.
Hearing of the wounded comrade, Ara will kind of just narrow her eyes and shake her head, like after all the blood. Now there's even more and amongst our own. But nonetheless, she'll go and head towards where that hovel is to see if she can tend to the wounds and ensure that they won't be the end of their companion.
For a time, you sit there slumped, not too dissimilar from the wounded men in the pig hovel you'd found Hrafngeir. You grow cold and the sleet intensifies. For a moment, you think you see the pig girl watching from the corner of a building, but the approach of someone in war harness, she disappears into the evening, and Ira manifests before you, tisking and touching over the wounds that Agnar had scored on you.
You're just determined to find death today, aren't you?
It would appear more so today than other days.
I imagine that'll be the case for most days now going forwards. Already such a mess. It'll only be worse. And then she'll like reach in and like press like much too hard on like one of the wounds. Quite as practiced with the healing as other methods of her type. But will still help to bandage them as best she can.
Ginger as ever.
I can be delicate or I can be effective. Presume with those wounds you'd prefer the latter.
Aye, you'd be right.
Not long after this, Skalm and several of Eric Eriksson's men will come to retrieve the corpse of Agnar. They'll cast baleful glares in your direction, Hrafngeir, as they take their slain companion away. And Skalm will move forward, put his war cap in his hand, and give a curt nod to you, Ira, before hunkering down next to you, Hrafngeir, admiring the healing work, and then turning to you, his face growing more serious. I've spoken with the captain. He will have a weirgild, 700 hack silver for the man you slew. And you can tell by the way he shakes his head and in the voice that he says it to you, that he thinks it an outrageous sum.
I don't have that. That's outrageous.
He nods. Perhaps he senses weakness of the Nameless. If Torka was here, he would never demand so much.
It's an outrageous thing to ask. The value of the man is decided by the eyes of the gods. That price is not a fair price to ask.
It would seem the gods have valued my life at that of a swine. What do I do?
We should ask. We should ask Hangatir. He knows Odin's laws better than I do. I'm still learning. She'll like say shamefully, like trying to present this like prideful visage, but now having to like walk that back in light of not having the right answers in this situation. There's
Scum looks
some
worried.
law. She'll just like shake her head.
Where is Hangatir?
With the other men. They sit in Kolskeg's hall. There will be council tonight. A chieftain of our crew must be decided. The men must feast rather than drink, for the tempers may flare.
How far away is the hall from me?
An agonizing short walk.
Scum. Can you lend me an arm?
Of course, and he'll look to you, askingly, Ira, and together you can support the wounded Hrafgir the short journey towards Kolskeg's hall. Inside it's warm, perhaps too warm, thick with this stink of sweat and blood, and a constant ambient of muttered and whispered speech coming from the far end of the hall, where sits most of the crew members of the Nameless, who haven't been set on watch of the ship herself, sit around the table with some sparse, meagre fare, awaiting the return of Skalm and Hrafgir. They'll give a excited kind of half cry at the sight of the Yule pig, and at once set to quartering and preparing it to roast over the hearth that's burning, and giving the warm temperature to the room. You can see Hangatir in conversation with Gunalda and Gunblindi and some others, and at the head table sits Gunmagan with one of his captains in conversation with Ericsson. He looks up and gives a perturbed look in your direction, Hrafgir, as you limp in, but will soon fall back to Gunmagan and conversation. Ericsson's men seem to be in better cheer than the crew of the Nameless. They sit at the lower tables closest to the entry, and are drinking and eating, don't seem to share as much care or burden as you guys' own crewmen. And soon enough you can find your places around the table in the midst of Gunalda, Hangatir, and the rest.
Well, it seems dinner's on me tonight.
Hangatir is like chewing this root.
Gunalda's he's like carving a piece of wood as he's participating in the discussion with Hangatir and everyone, and he sort of stops and sees as the pig comes in and Hrafgir is so wounded. You brought this in. Well, good to see you gave better than you got.
If only it was so easy.
Say what you mean, boy.
Hrafgir looks down. I slayed one of Eric's men who came for me. Left me a nasty scratch.
Why?
There's a pig. Could only imagine he wanted it too.
The pig that you're bringing here for everyone to eat? He tried to kill you for that?
For better or worse.
They're asking 700 hack silver. Ira will say, looking at Hangatir. It seems she'll just like let it hang.
Who was this man? Was he a Thane, a Jarl?
Do we know, Nico?
Skalm, when he spoke briefly to Ericsson, has learnt that the man is a warrior named Agnar Ulfson. He sailed twice with Ericsson over the past years and is well loved by his crewmen. A sword for a dead sword is what Ericsson said, rues Skalm, staring at the cup in his hands.
You do not have that kind of money.
No. No, I don't.
He has to expect you to pay within your means. Something valuable to you. It's not something beyond your means. Hangatir is like clearly unhappy about the situation. He's feeling awful, like he's chewing on this root, and he's like sweating and like shaking a little bit, and like he's, you know, marked with all these cuts and scars and things from the battle, which now he's starting to feel, and so he's just like frowning and having very little of this.
It is a test, says Gunalder, putting a boot up on the table as he continues carving the wood.
Hangatir looks at the boot, and then at the table, and then at the boot again, and then at Gunalder. People are eating.
Just gives this wide grin as he continues sort of whittling on this wood, but does remove the boot, maintaining eye contact and the grin with Hangatir, and then leans in, puts the wood and his knife down on the table and leans in. We are leaderless, the Nameless. We have no captain. What do you think Jarl Erik sees there? Opportunity.
If he's asking for a were-guild, you're entitled to fight for it. If you want to fight him or his best man, who he chooses. Otherwise, you'll have to pay the money, or you can appeal, say that you can't afford it and you'll pay what you can, or you can swear yourself to his service and earn the money back that way. There are different ways that you can pay back what you've done. You cannot be killing each other. We're in foreign lands.
We are in agreement there. Hrafnir, he leans in. Tell us true. How did it happen? Did he start it?
There was a pig. But there's also a child. He went.
Child?
Where is the child?
I don't know.
And he wanted the pig or the child?
Presumably both. But it's safe to assume that it was probably the child that demanded his attention.
How old was the child?
Small. 8, 9.
Hangatir like spits some red tinged spit to the side behind him on the bench, and like pinches the bridge of his nose and like rubs at his temples, and then like stretches a little bit. You can't pay 700 hack silver. No one saw what happened, and the dead man can't bear witness. And so, if you tell everyone what happened and you swear it was so, and he shrugs like it's impossible for a man to lie, and so obviously that's the end of it.
So I make an appeal.
I think that Eric will want to embarrass you, show his crew what a big man he is. That's what they always do. So just smile and nod and take it and tell him you'll make it up to him somehow. But 700 is not a reasonable number. You cannot pay it.
I appreciate the counsel. Hang it here. Gunalder.
Gunalder is speaking some sense. We have no captain. And if already there has been one death, there will be more to follow. This is not a good place for that. We are not at home. Something has to be done.
Gunalder looks over towards where Gunmagan is sitting at the head table, or the head of the table.
Yeah, he looks deep in council or conspiration, or both, with the older Carl Erik Eriksson. He's made a temple of his fingers that he puts between his nose and chin intermittently while he listens to Gunmagan's speech. Strikes you as a man who does not give too much away, but listens much.
Perhaps our new captain is already meeting with Jarl Erik. And he gestures over with his chin.
Gunblindi can't see this, of course, but he can hear it, and he agrees by way of like an elderly person's jaunted nod.
So Gunmagan will take the lead. Kind of rolling my eyes at this.
I don't like him.
It will be up for the crew to decide in the end. And she'll like look at Hangatir for like confirmation as she says it, like not necessarily being confident, but still speaking with confidence. It'll be a vote. We will pick and decide who will lead us.
Skarm nods darkly at this. Gunmagan will be our Carl after his ascension. Not an easy thing to vote against the boy, for in the future he will rule us. He says that to the group, but he's saying it for the benefit of Hrafngeir, and alluding to a difficult position that they are in to not vote for Gunmagan, even though Skarm obviously shares Hangatir's opinion, though won't speak it openly.
Well, then you can vote for him, and I'll vote loudly for someone else.
I think many of the warriors might cast their knucklebone where you do, Hangatir, rues Skarm, as he surveys Dorback, the brothers' gear at Feast Beyond, and turns his head over to survey the men from Hadeland under Halvar. You can see him weighing up who might cast their votes where.
And being born son of a Carl does not entitle you to lead a crew until you're old enough. He's a boy. And when things get hard, he will not know what to do.
I agree. And if our crew is going to be one amongst many, and the eyes of the other crews are already turned against us by this, and she'll like look over at Hrafngeir. Unfortunate turn of events. We will need someone strong who will be able to stand against them, to speak up on our behalf. The boy will not do so. He will either speak foolishly or not be able to speak at all.
Gunalder's nodding along. We must have a firm position to hold peace between the crews. And I do not think Gunmagan can do that, he says, some sort of perhaps shame or sheepishness coming across him as he admits this, and he sort of adjusts his fine fox fur cloak and his fine red leather boots and things like that, all wealth from Gunmagan's mother, Karl Gunilla, from being taken in by the household there. And he says, "But you're right. Any vote against him, if he does win, what will he do with those?"
Remember it, says Skelm.
He's a spiteful young thing. He'll carry it with him.
Exactly. So we need the numbers. This is all or nothing.
Then
So
we
who
must
will we
make sure
vote
that
for?
whoever we present is a better option, an indisputable option.
Gunnar
Who
casts an
amongst
eye
us all?
around.
Yeah, she'll kind of like look around. She's like asking everybody at the table like who they think they should vote for, but she's specifically looking at Hengatir as she says it.
He like looks around the table and then like around the hall itself to like think of who might be decent. And I think he just sees like a lot of like tired old warriors and like over enthusiastic young ones, and sort of like takes a deep breath and like lets out a sigh, like none of these people are going to be good enough.
Who will lead well and who will get votes tonight? Who better? And he leans into to the table and says more quietly, "Than you, Hangatir. They will follow you. We will follow you."
Where I go, you can't follow.
Gunnar looks over once again at Gunmagan in conspiring counsel with Jarl Eriksson. And I think just his gaze just lingers on him, and he's very aware, out of the corner of his eye as well, of Hrafngeir being present, knowing all too well the bad blood between the pair of them.
Hangatir like looks up and down the bench again and is like trying to figure out. And he finds it tedious, but he knows that some people enjoy the sort of like roguish, quick talking that Gunalder does. Although, in fairness, Hangatir finds most things tedious. And like of the people on the bench, he's definitely like the only option. Ira would be a good option, but she's a woman, and that's not going to happen. Not with this crew, and she's a witch. It could be you, Gunalder.
I'd vote for you.
He's sort of just nodding absently to what people are saying as he's intently watching Gunmagan. His oath that he's given Jarl Karl Gunilla before they left Gunland's shores and to land in Iskloft. His oath going through his head that he will follow and protect his son and heir Gunmagan. And then it rings through as he's nodding. Hangatir putting his name forth as a suggestion for leading the Nameless, and Hrafngeir backing or seconding the decision, or seconding the suggestion. Me? I would and I could. Better than him. I know that.
Then you should.
looks down at the sword at his waist, the sword upon which he swore that oath, the sword that represents this wealth and privileged life that he's fallen into with Carl Gunilla and her household. And he unbelts the sword in its scabbard and places it on the table. Okay, let's get the numbers, he says, with that trademark grin returning to his face.
With 2 children of Odin at your back, who would refuse? She'll say tacitly, hinting at her own endorsement as well, and also making the point.
Gunblindi, maybe not taking the full sense of the rhetorical question, will answer into the silence after it. The mercenaries from Hadeland, they will go and vote where the coin is. He leaves that to hang for a moment. And Gunmagan's men, sworn to him personally, will vote for no other.
So that is 8. He says as he surveys the rest of the crew dotted around the hall and sort of tries to tally it up in his head as to how close it may be.
No, I guess growing up in the place to an extent and knowing many of the unnamed crewmen of the Nameless, you'd gauge the thing to be a tight one, though it's true what the Valilander says, that many will look to take cues from those closer to the gods in like such auspicious times. But to ensure it, you would feel more comfortable ensuring that the mercenaries from Hadeland, true professional warriors of full time, they, similar to the twin ravens of Odin about you, might garner interest or momentum from other people who are sitting on the fence as far as which way they'll cast their red knuckle bones.
Yeah, as he surveys the room and has these thoughts, he says, Gunmagan's men will never vote against him. And he gestures over with his head to the 5 mercenaries of Tumult. But they may be swayed.
There's only
Men
one way
like
to
that are
sway men
swayed
like
by
them.
coin.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say the same thing. There's only one way to sway men like that.
They've been paid half of what they're owed. They get their fair share. I think all they're owed is the other half. And sorry, out of character, I think Ronaldo was present and would know, but was that going to be when they return to Gunland, or is that while they're over here?
And she paid them up front their mercenary fee and agreed to their receiving an equal share to the others. I believe that was like a sticking point at some point during their oath swearing, but
Yeah.
it was resolved in that way, I believe. So they aren't actually owed anything other than just the same amount of share as all of you, because they were paid for that front end, but ensuring their vote may cost something on top.
Yes.
They want to get rich. And so you have to convince them that you'll make them richer than Gunmagan will. Better battles. More raiding. That's how you get them. Reach into this bag and pull out 3. And he has this little bag and he holds it out to you. And inside there's all these bones, little shards of bones.
What is this? He says as he takes it or accepts it.
Don't look at them. Throw them on the table.
He does so.
These runes clatter. And he follows the way that they fall, and then gathers them up in front of him, and just begins to study them and doesn't say anything.
he watches them fall as he casts the runes, the knuckle bones clattering on the table, the noise lost in the din and chattering of the hall and the festivities of feasting. And he looks at the symbols that roll up. And they mean nothing to him, and he stares at them for a few moments, expecting Hangatir to start explaining what they mean and what the god's intent is here. And then after a few moments, when he hears nothing, he looks over to Hangatir, who I imagine is just sort of silently inspecting the runes.
Yeah, he's like either unaware or uncaring that like probably everyone's eyes are on him after he does this thing, but he's like looking at them and like seeing how they land and inspecting.
Well, what do the gods say, old friend?
This and that.
You've never been one for too many words.
Nope.
And yet he speaks more words and more clearly than the gods sometimes. It is difficult to decipher such things. She'll say, trying to like lend support to someone who doesn't need it.
Yeah, like the runes that he like, I actually have like runes here and I threw them and I'm figuring it out, but he'll sort of like look at Gunalder, sort of like shrug and then nod. Lucky. Better to be lucky than to be good.
This is what I always try to tell you.
You can get good, you can't get lucky.
Well, we shall see how far my luck holds tonight with the vote. And then he looks over to the table with the 5 mercenaries on it. And stands up, picking up his sword once more in its scabbard and holding it in his hand, not belting it back on. And I think his gaze lingers on Hangatir, and then he walks over towards that table. And Hangatir, you may or may not pick up that he's kind of hoping that you might come along as well. But as to why he doesn't directly ask you, you're not sure.
Yeah, he like pretty slowly like takes the runes one by one and puts them back into the bag and like pulls the drawstring, and then like loudly cracks his neck and will stand and follow.
As the 2 warriors make their way to go treat with the Hadelanders, Skalm, in their leaving, will say to Hrafnir and Ira, or he'll say to Hrafnir, but in the hearing of Ira, Ericsson and whoever our captain will soon want to move on. There's other spoil and plunder for the taking and missions to remember. You should resolve your ting with Eric Ericsson now, boy, he says to you, Hrafnir. You've heard the counsel of those wiser. What does your heart tell you? What will you do?
I will plead with them. Do my best to give them what they demand. And leave the rest to the gods.
Skalm nods at that. You should take the Nameless as Gothi with you. Invoke the gods when you treat with Ericsson. Gunblindi at that coughs, clears his throat, waves his hand over the top of his food and says, Younger eyes may see this matter more clearly. And for a moment you think, Ira, that his blind eyes fall on you. Skalm, catching the meaning, nods slowly. Not for the benefit of Gunblindi, of course. Go then, son.
need to make
Treat with him now.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, Ira would just kind of nod along and say, yes, the sooner that we have this behind us, the better. We don't want anything hanging over us as the new captain takes hold and as the spoils of all this begin to be divided. Surely he'll see that his asking is unreasonable, and that we can find a better way.
Yeah, Scarm nods again, and Gumblindi just closes his lips in on each other.
Opting out of asking for assistance and enduring the painful walk to Erickson in an attempt to kind of stand on my own, I will approach him.
Eric will mark your coming when you grow close and like visibly finish up his conversation with Gunmagan, who notices you in the corner of his eye and does nothing to stop his speech, which carries on for some awkward, painful moments with Eric before he finally finishes and settles back into his chair with something like a vulpine, curious look upon his face, almost as if he's anticipating something from this meeting. Erickson will nod that you may speak to him now, knowing, of course, or surely who you must be.
Erickson, Jarl, I am Hrafki, your Skalm son, and I owe you a debt.
He nods and makes that temple of his hands again.
I do not deny what has happened, but the terms that have been requested of me are beyond my means.
He nods. Then you should not have killed my man in the street.
Even in the wild, in the attempt on something's life, it will fight back. I had found a...
I was just going to say he nods in agreement with what you're getting at, knowing Agnar to be a violent man.
I had found a pig in a hovel. And I found a child. Her numbers are only so many. And as I exited the hovel, he made a lunge for her, and she slashed out. I didn't have much time before he attacked me as well. So I slew him.
And this child are your witness? They will testify the same?
I know not where she went. And I'm gonna kind of like notion at this, sopping bloody mess. Preventing my own death overcame my senses.
What then do you propose in lieu of what I've asked, as is my right?
Compensation within my ability. Whatever that price could be. 700 hacksilvers. I offer my service.
You would thrall yourself to me?
Either that or a thrall to Helheim.
There may be another way, my lord, says Gunmagan next to him, leaning forward into his chair. Even his voice makes your wound hurt more. Allow me to pay my respects and apologies on behalf of My man here, he says, claiming you with a noise. I will pay what is owed for your man. Eric thinks it a moment, looks at the man anew somewhat, thinking it a generous gesture and a quick resolution to this, and in sight of his own feasting men beyond who he's obviously aware of. He nods agreeance and then looks to you to see if what you would say on it, Hrafngeir.
If I find the child and she tells you what I have spoken is true, would that relieve me?
No, he says, though it would be a murder provoked, and so the Weir Guild could not be so grand. Agnar in some part brought this upon himself, and so I cannot claim full recompense if his foolishness has added to this situation. But without witness, no. I know you not, nor your name or father, and will not take your word upon this. You must produce the witness if I am to reconsider the cost. Otherwise I accept your lord's offer, and his coin. Gun Magan smiles, like if a cat with the cream could smile.
I cannot produce the child.
Then allow me to pay you, my lord, says Gun Magan in a syrupy tone.
Can I request time in an attempt to find her?
Gun Magan goes to form some words, no doubt a rebuttal of what you propose, but before he can, Eric agrees with a wave of his hand. Seemingly not an unreasonable man, observant of like rituals and traditions. Gun Magan doesn't seem to like that, though doesn't voice his displeasure. Eric doesn't give you a time, but you sense that it is short, whatever it is that he gives. And you get the sense from him that he's dismissed you with his body language. And this is temporary conclusion to the matter.
I will meet eyes with Gun Magan before, I can't say swiftly, but as rapidly as I can, turning and leaving the long hall. Turning to leave the long hall, anyway.
The man, Blacktooth Magni, laughs in raucous laughter, bangs his cup down a few times, spilling the dark mead there, and then goes to slake the thirst that the laughter had welled up as Halvar finishes his joke, clears his own throat, and then looks to the approach of Gunalda and Hangatir. Gentlemen, take a seat. My thanks for the pig to your man. And he gestures to some bones at his plate.
Looks delicious, Gunalda says with a big wide smile.
Food caught by another man always does. And at that, Halvar will like gesture to the benches opposite, and he'll give like a whistle through a broken tooth to one of the men nearby to make way for Hangatir to sit as well.
Nothing truer has ever been spoken. The meat always tastes so much sweeter when it is caught by someone else.
Two of your captains are dead, Gunlander, yet your happiness is relentless. What is your secret? Drink? Or have your fine wife at home waiting for you? And at that, Blacktooth laughs at Halvard's lewd talk.
The death of a man is a celebration, for we'll see them in Corpse Hall. They wait for us there with seats ready.
Magni remembers himself and nods at this, and Halvard becomes somewhat more somber, or sober, I should say.
Hangatir often has this effect on people. Like, he wasn't trying to be dour, he's just like stating facts. But the tone of his voice and his like grisly appearance often makes people sort of less cheerful. And he'll like reach out and like take some of the mead and like pour it for himself and then for some of the others, and gesture for them to just continue.
Gunalda would try and take that sentiment and like reinforce it and turn it on its turn it into into something a bit more jovial, I suppose. And yeah, take a cup and gesture for everyone to the glorious dead. Skål.
Skål, says Magni. Skål, Halvar soon after him, and the others up and down the table. Like the noise ripples through them as well, and those with cups of mead or ale will drink at it, and noting to spill much of it on the table or floor about them.
He wipes his mouth with the back of his arm as he puts the mead cup down and picks up a piece of the pig meat. And takes a big bite and says to Halvar, "So you really want to know?" He says, smiling as he eats, and the fat dripping all over his face, all over his chin.
Yeah, he looks between the dour Hangatir and the grinning Gunalda and settles into his chair, consenting to your story to proceed. Magni will just take up one of the bones he's already chewed the gristle from and begin sucking the blackened marrow out into his blackened teeth as he watches and listens.
Grinning all the while as he's taking bites and talking between them. It's difficult to hurt my spirits. For here we are celebrating the lives of the glorious dead. We are celebrating first successful raid in East Iskloft. And you know why I'm always smiling? You really want to know? He says as he leans in toward Halvar. I am lucky. And he leans back and just with that smile continuing, just chewing on the meat more, seeing what this man thinks of that.
Luck, eh? A lord I once served spoke of luck. He said hard work makes it. But you seem carefree. Though no stranger to hard work, he looks at your warrior's hands. To be so lucky without much toil, that is a God-given thing.
Hard work is a separate thing, I think. To my luck, at least.
The same lord likened luck to milk, and that at winter it runs out.
Yes, sometimes it is sweet, sometimes more sour, but it is always there. And it always sees me through. And those close to me.
I have heard the men call you Heldig, and know you must that Odin must be fond of you to give you some measure of his luck. Surely you did not come here to boast, though, for none of us saw you kill any men upon the bloody beach this morn.
Picks a bit of fat out from between his teeth. No, that is true. I saw you kill many. All of you. Halvar, Eric, he looks at each of them in turn. Edmund, Borg, Magni. Clearly gone to the trouble of learning each of their names.
Yeah, you notice that that's not lost on them, and they shift at the posture that their name intones, and look to you and you.
And he turns to Edmund of Zealand. I would like to learn about the land you are from, but they call you Broadgut. Tell me, where is that name? How did that name come about?
He slaps his belly. For I'll eat anything, Lord, and not complain, he says in a thick southern accent.
Well, please, eat up. Enjoy the pig. That
I
my man
have,
has
and
caught.
it was fine. And of my land, many things I could tell you, Lord, but chief most, the women.
Oh, he
Not
looks
like
to
the swollen
Hangatir.
cows you have here, or rocky goats. They are fine women with gold hair and big ripe breasts.
Oh. He looks to Hangatir and looks back at Edmund with a smile.
Hangatir,
So why would you leave? Yeah, you go.
Hangatir is like helping himself to some of this food, and like he like initially began eating like quite slowly, but then realized how hungry he was, and now is just like stuffing himself, and like generously like helping himself and like reaching across people to get whatever he can to fill his stomach, which had been voided many times after the battle, as always is the case. And so he's like eating at the moment. He'll like nod enthusiastically at the idea of beautiful women, though he's only half listening.
Why would you leave such a magical place?
At that, he loses his carefree laugh and slouched, gut protruding kind of posture, and then straightens a little. A delicate matter, Lord. I killed a man. I could not pay all his weregild, and so I was exiled a time. Though I found my own measure of luck here, and he clasps Magni Blacktooth on one shoulder and Halvar on the other. In Hadeland, there is coin and work for men. That's how I found my way into their company.
At good company it is, he says, looking between the five men again.
He shrugs. The food could be better, but I'll not complain.
There is always something. Is that not true? No matter how good we have it, we always seem to long for something more.
It is the way of men. He shrugs and like finds a bit of gristle that he hadn't got to before, and will like eat that matter of factly.
He gestures over to Gunmagan sitting up there, talking with Jarl Erik. What do you think of Gunmagan?
They kind of look at him at time. You can see them scouring their thoughts of him. He is a lord's son, says Halvar after a time. And Magni nods as if that's answer as to why they might not elaborate.
They think that he pays them. No? And he like looks at them with this look of like, I know what that's like.
Yeah, Yaedman, not fully getting like the depth of the subtleties of the conversation, nods while he chews. Like, yep, that's probably why. Magni and Halvar have a share a knowing look with themselves and Halvar and Hangatir. His mother paid us. Most like he will pay us after.
He's a boy. Doesn't know war. Doesn't know the shield shake. I wonder how many men he sent to the corpse hall, and how many of them will wait for him gladly. It's the measure of a man, that when you get there, and you nod to the All-Father as you walk into the hall, how many men make space for you, push out a chair, shove someone aside so you can sit next to them on the bench. That's the measure. Not how many you kill.
Gunalda's just punctuating that with the chewing more slowly now on the fat of the pig with his smile on his face.
I sense we are coming to the heart of the beast, says Halvar while he prods one of the discarded bones.
As you said, we've lost 2 captains already. We need a third. Gunmagan would take that mantle for himself. Others of us disagree.
Forgive me, Heldig, says Halvar, raising up a hand. And I mean no offense, but he's saying that actually to Hangatir, not to you. But you are not so much older a boy than he.
'Tis true. But whatever weight you place on him being the son of a lord, I am like a brother to him, was raised in his household. Hangatir here himself took me there as a child after my family's farmstead was burned. What luck is that, he says, his grin widening.
Hard luck, the death of a family, the burning of a hold.
His grin remains, but his eyes change somewhat, losing the mirth, but the grin itself remains. I was talking about the good luck. The
An easy
turn.
thing to speak of, says Halvar.
If you had to choose a hound to hunt and to guard you, would you choose a lapdog that's lived all of its life in comfort, has always been fed on time, always slept by a fire? Or would you choose a dog that has spent long times out of doors, out in the wilderness, making its own way to survive? Which is better at hunting?
He nods, catching your meaning.
Gunalda takes another sip of his mead from his cup and places it back down, and rests a hand on the scabbarded sword that he's got in front of him on the table. You have your coin. You've been paid up front, and you'll get your even share of spoils on the crew either way, whoever is captain. So what else can you be offered? Opportunity, glory. The Flamesower would take all of Midgard for his own, but we will not let him take what is rightly ours. We will sweep across East Iskloft like the wind. There will be
Your words are
spoils
fine.
and glory.
Your words are fine, fine things indeed, but my thought is that steel or silver speaks more sweetly.
I
A
see.
fine blade for a man, with not too many waiting for him at the corpse hall, remarks Halvar. Magni, by some look in his face, catches some other meaning than just what the words that were stated implies.
It is. And it has not yet served me as well as I would have hoped. But I have other weapons. And he looks around. How are these men armed?
No ornamentation, nothing ostentatious, pragmatic, practical, marchable, killing gear.
Mm.
Worn
Any of them-
chain, none of it gleaming too shiningly, like as if to give away, though scoured clean of rust.
Mm. And weapon-wise, do any of them have an actual sword? Or is it spears and axes and seaxes?
Yeah, Magni and Halvar both sport war sayaxes, but they don't have them on them. They're hung on pegs by the door.
Mm. And Halvar is like the sort of leader of the five of them, isn't he?
Yeah, even though Yadman, Broadbelly, and Magni are older than him.
Yeah.
What
It is a
about
fine.
this? You cannot come here and ask this man for his sword. Not a sword like that. Not for this. Not for a endorsement, some enthusiasm in this man. You don't know him any better than that one. He points for a second at Gunmagan.
I know that this one, he means Heldig, won't piss in my cup hereafter if I don't vote for him. But that one, he points to gold-haired Gunmagan. My life might be harder with his wrath. Easier to bear with a fine sword.
What about my wrath?
I am a sane man, and so rightly fear it, Berserker. His voice is in a de-escalating tone, but Yeadman Broadbelly stops eating and Magni tenses in his chair.
I have no intention of harming you. I'm just saying that enemies are made no matter what decision you make.
Choosing foes in my line of work is a needful thing and keeps us alive. I do not miss your threat, hanged lord.
If there's money in either direction, he shrugs. Why not choose a man you like?
He doesn't say anything, but something flashes behind his eyes. Perhaps you think he doesn't really like either man
Yeah.
better than the other. One is like carefree and carries himself in an almost like positivistic, aloof manner, and the other's a cruel little cunt. So to him, like,
Yeah, it's much of a muchness. What would sway you then to think that this man is a better man? You want to fight him?
there's plenty more fighting to come, he says, obviously not fearing the prospect of fighting Gunelda. And we'll have our fill then, without fighting ourselves. At that, he kind of shoots a look to your man Raffengir, who's now walking out the door, past where the sword belts are pegged, out into the cold for some reason. Then back to you, after intoning that man's recent crime.
I don't mean killing him, but I mean some men think it's important that a leader can fight. Most of the good ones think that.
Let your silver speak, sir, he'll say to you, Gunelda. If you wish to buy us, let it be plain. Buy us.
Very well. And he looks, and his gaze lingers slightly on his sword sitting on the table, and he knows how much that is worth, and he knows how much hack silver he has to his name, aside from his gear, which is by far the more valuable that he has. Got 55 hack silver in his pouch. And just out of character, like 10 hack silver each is piss change, right? That won't.
Yeah, insulting.
Yeah, exactly.
Sensing like and knowing that you're not going to be wealthy enough to hire these men, Hangatir will sort of turn.
Yeah, you sense the trap that Halvar's laying, right?
Yeah. Yep.
He's saying, you pay me then, and then you say that you can't pay him, and then he goes, well, my decision is obvious.
Yeah.
What share are you getting now, Halvar? You and yours?
An equal to you and you.
And what if you got a better share, a Huskarl's share?
That is what I asked on the beach, but the lady in her wisdom did not see our southern worth.
And what if Gunelda saw the wisdom therein?
Magni reveals his black teeth in a smile of sorts.
Gunelda leans forward with that smile. A Huskarl's share. How does that sound to you? Is that plain enough of an offer?
I like it well. Do not worry, man.
He says, for you, you're their leader.
You will have your share, man, he says to those down the bench from him, and it looks past between Yeadman, the Broadbelly, Magni and the others, and something which must be agreement makes its way up towards Halvar, who then turns his head to the both of you and nods. Your oath on that will be good enough.
Vote for me. Vote for me and you have it.
Let me hear your oath and we will cast our bones for you.
Huskarl's share for you, Halvar. I swear, before the All-Father himself, fight
He
for me,
spits.
you will have more glory and more gold than you would ever have following him.
He likes that end of the oath because it gives him terms for wiggling out of it, should he need. So he likes it well enough, spits into his hand, and thrusts his meaty fist in your direction.
Yeah, he shakes his hand. Both greasy palms, apt
Pork
for what's
grease and
happening
spit
here.
and
Yeah.
bullshit. Outside, the sleet has made fine short work of you tracking the child Tola. She's made her way out northwest from Feistheimer out into the cold dark, and where her footfalls have been placed, there's indentations in the snow that by the sliver of moonlight you can see Hrafngeir. And as you rise from another set of these tracks, you have to pull your cloak up around your neck and ears as the weather drops, worsening. The sounds of Feistheimer behind you now well gone and swallowed up to be replaced by the sounds of the naked woods and of distant Skatergungan roaming the night in their wolfish hour. Eventually you pass around the broad trunk of a leafless ash and would have walked past the lump that it secrets in its boughs had you not kicked a heavy root which shimmies the sleet off the top of it, revealing a child's white leg and blue toes thrusting up out of it. You turn and shift away some of the windfall's detritus to reveal the frozen, lifeless corpse of Tola out in the cold, fled to her death here in this lonely bough.
This is the little girl, Tola. Her name was Tola.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, it's not kind of, her body's dead and lifeless. I curse a bit, curse my situation, curse this frozen youth, and look back to the warmth of where I was. And Gunmagan's shit-eating face. And I turned to leave. Because this body will do me nothing.
The wind whispers some warning. You hear it distantly as you make at the beginning of your journey back to the dim lights of Feistheimer. And then for the second time today, the hairs on the back of your neck begin to spring up. Some preternatural hunter's sense comes over you here, this place where you're more comfortable despite its obvious and extreme discomforts. And as your eyes are fixed to the dark and close horizon beyond, you can see figures moving about it. Skatergungan, the thought crosses your mind, though that's banished when you see the human shapes that flit between the slim prisms of moonlight, making their way through the naked trees, heading southerly, and mingling with the sounds of their footfalls in the sleety earth. You can hear the light jangle of war harness. And some instinct drives you to hunker low by the ash bough near the child's corpse.
Are they close enough that I can see like a banner or anything?
No, there'd be no banner sported. And looking about the men, you can see some of them hold spears, bows, and other weapons, though none holds a flag or banner. This is no obvious meeting or heralded approach by any means. You're well beyond the scouts or guards that were put by the two, by Gunmagan and Captain Eric around Feistheimer.
I've kind of, like you said, hunkered down by this body. Is there any way that I could like move and still remain hidden? Is there coverage between where I am?
Yeah, there's trees about. Like this. They're all stripped of their leaves in winter's grip. But there's enough of them gathered about that you can move from tree to tree, and with the darkness and your own nuanced knowledge of the wilds, pretty confident that you could move as quietly, if not more quietly, than many of the alarming figures you notice in your midst.
I would like to. I think I would try to make it back to Skullm and the others. Raise an alarm. You said there's guards posted?
Yep, on the outskirts of Feistheimer. If it's them you intend to reach, you'll have to roll a stealth check.
Okay. Jeez. 12 on the die. Is that a total of 17?
You begin to creep back, hunkering low, all thoughts of the pig child left behind now as you dart from ash to elm, from naked birch to old oak, heading ever backwards southeast towards Feistheimer, skirting away from the figures till you can no longer see any of them but can hear them faintly in the distance, given your own keen senses, as in a way you stealthily race them back to Feistheimer.
As soon as I can get to a guard who could move faster than me, maybe not as stealthily as me, I am going to kind of not kind of. I'm gonna tell him to listen, to see, or to show him the direction of this war party moving on us.
Yeah, a couple of guards. Two of them are Eric's men. The other three sat there from the Nameless crew. They will know you well enough and come to your greeting or warning after initial kind of halt. Who goes theirs? And at your like hurried words and obviously your nervous body language, they'll adopt a similar kind of attitude and look about the dark, listening, looking for phantoms and confirmation of your word, doubting it at first, though one by one begin to feel something. How many did you see? Says one of the men, whose names you've forgotten, but face you've seen many times over the past months in Gunberg.
It was many. A long shadow along the horizon of the hill.
He looks across to the long hall towards the center of Feistheimer, obviously not relishing the idea of interrupting betters, but seeing that the risk is great. Eventually he concedes to what his gut is telling him, and he says as much to you, looking back, Hrafngeir.
I will tell as well. I will spread the word. Raise the alarm.
He nods vigorously and will join in now, adopting a jog or sprint, whatever your pace determines. You make your way back towards the long hall. I think that's where we'll take a bio coffee break and come back in 5 minutes' time. That sounded good to you guys?
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yes.
sounds good.
Excellent.
Cool. Back in a few.
BRB. Looks like
This one
everyone's
will
back.
be. No.
What are you prophesizing, Jeff?
I was just gonna say this battle will be a little more interesting than the last, because I am spent on basically everything from the first major battle, outside of like a couple of small trinket things. So
Yep. Yeah, there was a short rest at the end of last session, I believe, but not a long rest.
okay, yeah, I'll roll a hit die and get some HP back, but that doesn't get me any of my spells and stuff.
At least you're in better shape than Gear.
Yeah, I have been having a rough time.
Yeah, HP wise, I'm actually pretty solid. And I need
More
to check
ability.
actually if the skeins ability counts after a short rest or just a long rest. I have it up right. I'm looking at it right now. Uh, I just didn't write it clear enough on my actual character sheet. Only long rest.
So over the next moments, Chaos engulfs Feistheimer for a second time in the same day, or close enough, and shouts of alarm are soon replaced by shouts of men to arms, to shields and swords, and running about, and tables and chairs screeching as they're upturned in men's haste to prepare for unexpected battle. And then that sound is replaced by the sound of fighting coming from outside, and the jink and jangle of your own war harness as you gather up what you can in the needful moments before rushing from the warmth of slain Kolskeg's hall and out into the frigid, sleeting night where enemies have poured from the woods. Men scream, pierces the night like lightning flashes as men on either side are cut down before you men and Ira rush out in some semblance of a form into the chaos to see foes peeling from around the sides of building or rushing down the white slopes towards Feistheimer, not calling words so much as just guttural war cries which mean death to the invader. They're not coming in lines or blocks with no organization, but as like spirits from the night, from the north. Gunmagan is calling his men to him, and similarly Halvar is doing the same. Orm Dorbak rushes with Gunblindi to call up those men who had been billeted to their different camps or to sleep, to join up around them as the first of the foes pour down the thoroughfare of half-ruined hovels towards the midst of where you five stand. Your battle-hardened eyes, Hangatir, as they give survey over the scene, you seek and find the shine of metal, which tells of a man's worth or rank to his companions. And you see a warlord, young by his vitality and hair, you think, from what you can see of it underneath his helm. As he cuts down a much older, larger warrior due to his sheer litheness, quickness, and the fact that he bears no shield and seems to have Odin's luck as yet another spear is hurled at him and to drift into the snow at his feet as he rounds upon his next foe and easily vanquishes him. His skill is obvious when compared to the others, which is surprising as he's of an age with Gunalda, who you've been championing at the long haul benches. As he looks from the spurting corpse that is made beneath his feet, he sees you men lining up, bellowing war cries, and calls some others to him before they begin their sprint towards your position. And I'll get everyone's name and number in the chat, please. Oh, did you post an initiative, Lloyd? Oh, I can't see it. Could someone else copy and repost it?
I can't
Because
see
of
it
the bot, I can't
either.
see Lloyd's posts. Yeah.
I 1 second.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
thank you, sir. Hey, so Gunalda, the sword that you nearly had to give over as payment now is unsheathed and bared ready in your hand. And through the haze of sleet and the rising adrenal spike from within you, you see these foemen come pouring forth. There are 7 in the midst of you, 5 of those sprinting towards you. The other 2 are hauling on bows and sending arrows to the men into the men around you. Similar to Hangatir, I guess you would notice a chieftain amongst them, armored in chain, but shieldless and with no small sword skill, sprinting over the bloody sleet-laden ground towards where the troops gather about you. The sounds of combat grow louder in your ears as other frays all about are joined to a rising crescendo of bloodshed. You were the first to act.
The adrenaline spike urges him on, and he is eager to prove as much to himself as to the 5 mercenaries and just everyone that he is capable as a warrior. He knows it himself, but he's keen to get some blood on his sword this time. And he answers the wordless war cries with one of Gotland as he races forward. And I'll use my Warlord command Death. So that's basically advantage on damage rolls for my allies for the next 10 rounds.
Men instinctively give up cries as you barrel out these orders or intone this command. And something surges. Is there anything else you do for your turn? Or are you going to stay in the midst of your gathering companions?
Yeah, I was imagining he's sort of starting to charge forward to meet them in a charge, because that's cost my action. So, but I guess mechanically, I don't want to put myself right next to next
Money,
to someone.
you don't want to put your money where your mouth is mechanically?
How do you mean? Sorry.
Like rush out to meet him, like to use your movement to meet the charge?
Yeah. No, I'll do that for sure. I just can't attack them.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we'll do that. That was
Okay.
how I imagined it. Yeah.
A taller, swarthy man who bears who bears a long ashen pole tipped in black iron, will sprint around the straw-haired helmed man, a shieldless man who is chieftain of this small group, and sprint around to your side and try and harry you with his spear to provide weakness for his master to do you in. He'll give a single two-handed spear thrust aiming for the meat of your thighs to try and pinion you in place. But for a 12, I'm sure it's an easy swipe of your weapon to parry away his longer one. At that, the bright-haired man with mail and no shield will dart in with a speed that he should not rightly be able to possess at this hour of night, and your screaming muscles protest as they ready to try and fend him off. He'll strike twice with surprising sword skill at you for a 22 and a miss.
Yeah, the 22 will hit.
So it's in 2 hands, so it'll be a D10. It's going to be 9 slashing damage as he bursts links down your front, parts the leather to score across the flesh of your chest.
Oh.
Some smile, not too dissimilar from your own, juts out from beneath the nasal helm that obscures his visage somewhat. Hangatir, you see the first blood shed as Gunalda gives up a war cry and the battle is joined. A rising crescendo of mindlessness. Rodmarson sworn to obey and protect Orn, so he'll draw his sword and rush in to flank you, Gunalda, with the spearman Schoolie. And with two-handed swipe, he'll hack into your exposed side with advantage. 20 to hit.
That'll do it.
Okay, the gods are fair. 6 slashing damage. Only this time, the armor saving you from the bulk of the damage that he may have caused.
I am down, but I will spend my reaction for one adjacent ally to spend their reaction to melee attack that target. That's the protect me order.
Okay, I'm going to say that since Hangatir was getting worked up to Berserker Ganger, you can choose either Hrafngeir or Ira.
I think, we'll say Ira, flowing on from the way we worked together in the first attack. So you can make an attack, spend your reaction to make a melee attack, Ira, as Gunalda fucking ingloriously falls down into unconsciousness. We didn't have a short rest. Oh, I suppose we did have a short rest, didn't we? Because that'll determine whether I'm still conscious or not.
Okay. Yeah, there was one short rest, at the end of last session, after the battle, before the evening had fallen.
Okay, sorry about that. He's still up then, but that I'm still allowed to do that, so that's fine.
Yeah, sadly, that's a 3 on the die from Ira. And she's actually she's distracted from the call as you say it. She's clearly working on something else. So I'm just going to say that she doesn't even make the attack. So mechanically, that'll be a miss.
So after Cole Rodmarson, it is Ira's turn.
Yeah, the call for the attack was ignored as she had bigger things to call on. So I looked it up, and my conduit is actually a short or long rest, thankfully. So she's been drawing the same symbol that she did in the dirt before in the previous battle on the beach. This intricate angular symbol, the Helm of Awe. And then as she finishes it, finally missing the opportunity as her commander is struck, there'll be this sort of pulse that'll come off of it, and she'll cry out, singing in a song of Odin to bolster her allies. So that'll give us the +1 AC and 5 temporary hit points to everybody for a minute. Yeah, as this symbol of protection is drawn and sent out through her abilities, through the song. And then she'll move up and make sure that she's next to everybody if she's not already.
Hrafngeir, the war song calls you to action.
I would take a step back from the immediate wall we have pushing forward as they began their charge. And I see this youth that is very, very talented with the sword, correct?
Probably of an age with yourself or Gunalda, somewhere in that midst.
I'm going to loose an arrow at him. Actually, I'm going to bonus action mark him as my quarry. So then shoot at him.
Cool.
9 on the die for a total of 14.
14's not quite enough. The arrow zips past his head, causing him to leer back and then mark you as a threat.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna stay back behind. And that'll be it for me.
He calls out over his shoulder, "Yell, Skeety, bring him down!" pointing in your direction with his bloody sword before bringing it back up to parry another one of Gunalda's opportunistic strikes. The sons of Ulla will comply. They'll both haul their bows, instinctively move apart from each other to get better angle upon you, and fire through the battle haze at you, Hrafngeir, for a miss and 17 all up.
17 will hit me.
Short bow. 4 piercing damage.
Any damage will down me.
It thunks into you and drives you to your feet, and then you sprawl to the ground, swooning in and out of unconsciousness.
Oh wait, no, I have temporary HP.
You have.
Yeah,
I
I
was
got
just gonna
temporary
say,
HP. So yeah,
Awesome.
I'm even closer to death.
The Shield Maiden saved you. Gills, he sports staff in the background. He'll rush forward, bringing up an iron shod staff in 2 hands with like a baseball swat aimed at your legs, Ira, to bring you down. He uses his movement to close with you, and then with 2 hands give a swipe of the staff. 14 to hit's probably not going to touch Ira though if she's got a shield.
Nope. Yep.
Yeah, it just clangs onto the boss of your shield and is rebuffed like a gong for now. And then it goes back to, hang on, I feel like one's missing from the initiative order. Odric Oakstaff. Yep. I'll take it. So I actually use the stats for Gil, so I'll just switch them around now and then have this guy's turn at the end. He bears axe and shield, and he's going to rush in he'll use his movement and dash to get a flank with the staff wielder on you, Ira, but that's all for his turn, so we'll go back to the top with Gunalda.
Yeah, exchanging blows with his sword against this foe. He's just try and make a strike that makes purchase. 21 to hit.
That hits anyone.
Yeah, excellent. Sorry, so do we know who I was? Yeah, who was it that struck me? Who am I engaged with?
Orn, son of Oleg, blonde-haired
Yes.
warrior with the sword skill.
So that'll be for 5 damage with the sword. So exchanging blows with sword and shield, and then he sort of maybe gives him a bit of a nudge with the shield to try and throw him off balance a little bit, so that he can get a slash in, which finally makes purchase. And then I'll also use one of my warlord die to give Hrafngeir 9 HP back, as he looks around and sees him really struggling. And I guess just calls out to him, "Stay on your feet, Hrafngeir."
As you do this, Schoolie will try again to drive his ash pole through your thigh, this time for a 16 to hit.
That'll miss.
Cling! As the strike is rebuffed. Oren at this will grab his hands both about the hilt of his sword, and at first strike high overhead, forcing you to bring your weapon up, and then nearly as quickly bring it back in a backhand strike down the your exposed lower parts. So the first will be a 24 to hit, the second will be a miss if 16 doesn't hit.
Correct, yeah.
I'm assuming 24 certainly hits.
Absolutely.
9 slashing damage.
Wow.
Across the this will be the top one, so I guess it scores down the side of your shoulder. Hangatir, the rage consumes you. Cool. Because of where Ira stands flanked, I'm going to say that the guy who'd flanked around her will get an opportunity of attack on you as you go past. But it's a miss anyway. And the ace and the athletics. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got a 7, so it's 12 all up for the attack. I just assumed that definitely missed. Oh, gosh, you're invulnerable again. Oh, fuck. Yeah. Okay, that beats his 13. Yeah, he tries to, like, writhe around and get out of your grasp, but it's too strong. You hold him in place. At the start of his turn. Okay, just remind me when it comes to Orn turn. Yeah, he would have, because you'd stay back getting up into a Berserker gang, and Gunelda, I believe, had gone to meet, like in a charge, had gone to meet Orn. So yeah, you'd have to use your full movement to get up to him. Okay, I think Cole would see you as a greater threat to his master than Gunelda, who's been pretty badly wounded twice now. So he's going to turn his attention to you and try and just get one decapitating strike with his sword, aim at the thick cord muscles of your neck. It's going to be a miss. 12 again. Maybe in your just craze, the movements of your craze, he misses, not because of any sensible defense. You just don't stop moving, and he can't get a good definitive strike yet. Yeah, it makes him balk. Odric flanking you, Era, will try and bring your feet out from underneath you. You'll need to make opposed athletics or acrobatics to the tune of 23.
Yeah, a 6 on the die. I don't have a plus like 18 modifier, so.
Yes, this man smashes his iron shod staff down into your ankle and you collapse onto the ground. But luckily enough for you, it's your turn now. So you need only stand up to cancel any negative effects of being prone.
Yeah, she'll clamber up to her feet, trying to shake off the sudden shock in her legs and the surprise of falling, taking a second to regain her footing. And she'll try to return a strike back at this staff-wielding man, lunging forward with her own spear for a 17.
It certainly hits.
All right, and then that'll be 9 piercing as she'll lunge forward, jabbing at him to ensure that he feels more pain than he's dealt to her.
Yeah, you stab him through the shoulder and make a tent of his cloak at the back before you twist the blade and rip it back out, and blood spurts out, rewarding you. He's bloodied. He'll groan in pain and lumber sideways. Meanwhile, Hrafngeir, this arrow is like jolting agony through your body, but Gunelda is calling you on to further violence.
It was Orn, the young kid that Hangatir had tackled, correct?
Yep.
So he's prone, which would give me disadvantage.
No, he's grappled at the moment. He's not actually been prone yet,
okay.
so it's just the regular shot.
Then I'm going to attempt to fire at him again.
Okay.
All right, that's a lot better. 22 to hit.
Certainly.
As a moment of clarity between Hangatir and this man, I hit for 11 damage.
Yeah, the arrow takes him in the sides. He reels, crying out in anguish, and he is bloodied. At that, the two men either side of him, one just cries out in like a wordless "Whoa!" and the other says, "My lord!"
And that'll be it for me.
Okay. At that, the Sons of Ula will forget their order to shoot down the archer and will turn their bows on the giant figure whose vice-like grip is sealed around their master, and they'll both let fly arrows at you, Hangatir, from about 15, 20 feet away. One for a 24, the other for a definite miss. Shortbow, he's in a bonus action, do his Archer's Eye. So it will be 9 piercing damage. Thunk. And Gil's flanking you, Ira, will strike out with advantage with his axe. Misses. Yeah, 2 arrows were fired at you, 1 struck for 9 piercing damage. Oh, grim! That kills him. The arrow takes him in the
Yes!
back of the neck. Yeah, he was on 7 left, so the arrow takes him, and one of them just kind of looks wide-eyed, like fuck. And there's more chaos now within the group as one of them shot their own master. Yeah, I think at that, the archers still with movement left, one of them will rush forward, dropping his bow to gather his lord's body. So it'll put him not adjacent to you, but like within your midst, say 5 feet away from you. And he's obviously trying to retrieve that corpse you've just made by your reaction. The other will just thumb at another arrow to fire into the midst of enemies. Gil's attacked Ira, but missed with his even with advantage, so it goes back to the top. Gunalda in the center of the fray, or of this fray anyway.
And there were two of the enemy warriors that were like right nearby. Is that right? Like they just sort of saw the ones that cried out when their lord,
Yeah, Cole and Schooly are the dark-haired men either side of their bright-haired lord.
Okay.
So they're both adjacent to you at your diagonal.
Yeah. So Gunalda will just swing with his momentum around to attack Cole. With his sword. For a 19 to hit.
Certainly.
And that'll be 5 damage.
Yeah, the blow with not enough power to take limb or life, but still summons cry of pain from the man as blood spurts, but he is not felled, nor does he flee from the wounds you give him.
Yeah, and he'll just space down with this guy, and that's it for this turn.
Schooly is going to provoke opportunity of attack from you, Hangatir, to complete a flank on Gunalda. Oh, of course. Yep. So he'll get a flank on you and then try and drive his spear through your back and out your belly for advantage. Still somehow a miss. 14's not going to do it. So maybe like the scale or chain that you wear rebuffs the seeking spear of Schooly once again.
And the luck holds true.
Yeah, true. Orn gurgles something and then finally goes to corpse. All does I'll roll a crit check. He will wait for you in corpse hall, Hangatir. And it's your turn. Yeah, one of the sons of Ulla, Skeety. Yep. Yeah, he's not attacking you. He's trying to drag away his lord's body. Nope. It would be a war axe, the kind you can use versatile at 1 or 2-handed. It'd be of decent make. Nothing as fine as in Gunland, but certainly a serviceable weapon for an Asblow that I use. That'll hit. His AC is 14. He just wears a jerkin and hood. D10 if it's in 2 hands. Yeah, it nearly severs his head from his neck. Great sheets of blood vomit out over his shoulder, and his hands fall away from his lord's corpse to the ruin that you've caused there. The man hangs between this life and the next by a single thread. I'm going to do a morale check for Skeety. He's not frightened, though. Honor compels him, or duty compels him to retrieve his lord's corpse, and so will not flee from you, Hangatir, despite how you've fucked him up so bad. After the hang... yeah, me thinks so too. Cole has a sword bed, and he's flanking you, Gunalda, so he's going to try and take your head off with advantage. It's 22 to hit.
They'll do it.
6 slashing damage.
Ooh.
Odric Oakstaff will grapple you, Ira. So opposed athletics or acrobatics, your choice. Your DC is 17 this time.
And these opposed checks are not going well. That's 4 on the die.
Yeah, so he kind of, I imagine he holds his staff in 2 hands and puts it over your head and then pulls it back, pinioning you between his chest and the staff that's kind of around your neck. And that's all he'll do. Actually, no, he will drag you away so that you're not adjacent to his companions. This will provoke an opportunity of attack from both Hangatir and Gunalda, though. And it's with a sword now instead of a fist. And how'd you go, Gunalda?
Sorry, I missed that. That's a 17 on the die. What was it for?
That'll hit. An opportunity of attack upon Odric Oakstaff, who's kind of pinioned Ira with his staff against his chest and is dragging her from being adjacent to you guys around to just be flanked solely by him and Schooly.
Right.
Oh, well, you just fucking cut his head off and drop the staff, and Ira is free.
Gunalda did 11 damage. Or would have.
Yeah, it would have if it had hit him, but his body had already fallen headless and let Ira free, courtesy of like a splash of blood down the back of her neck and hair. But free nonetheless for his foolish moving. Odric Oakstaff, Ira, recently the hold is relinquished on you.
Yeah, I imagine she has to duck her own head down as the sword just comes screaming through the air from Hangatir so that she's not cut down with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to avoid the slash. She'll like duck down as the spray of blood like falls across her back, but she won't notice it in the scream of battle. And then immediately look back. And the other person who was flanking me was that Gills at the bottom. She'll just turn to whoever was next.
Sorry, Gills. Yeah, it was Gills Svinian. He and Oakstaff were the ones who were flanking you. Schooly and Cole were flanking Gunalda.
Yeah, with Oakstaff down, the berserker freeing her from the bonds. She'll just immediately lunge back forward with the spear, attempting to drive it next into this one to ensure that all those who had gone against her end up on the ground or in corpse hall. And for a 21.
That hits.
And that'll just be 6 piercing.
Okay. Wounds the man, though, does not bloody or drive him off. Hrafngeir, you've thumbed another well-fletched arrow from its quiver at your side, knocked it onto the string, and are now surveying the battlefield down the length of the shaft for where you will end a skein next.
I see this man flanking Gunalder. He has called attention to him, and after seeing my previous quarry dropped, I immediately flick to put him in my line of sight. 22 to hit.
That hits. Which one was that against? Sorry?
Cole.
Yep, that's certainly.
For a total of 12 damage.
Describe his demise.
I almost imagine Gunalder, calling attention to him, and after seeing Orin go down, I quickly turn, and it's almost on instinct when the quarry jumps and you plan your shot. This call out was enough to bring my attention where it needed to go, and the loosed arrow flies, and it catches him below the eye in the cheek, but enough of an impact to lodge itself far enough into his head that he is unable to carry on. It seems to him as a inconvenience, and then his own demise as an arrow lodges itself in his face.
Rad. With the death of Cole, it goes to the sons of Ulla. The man with the badly gashed knack, courtesy of Hangatir, will grab hold of his bright lord and heft him up, and with great pain begin the process of dragging him away 15 feet from where the melee is still playing out. His brother will cover him by firing an arrow into your back, Hangatir, for a miss. Because he can't. Gills will... Yeah, he didn't get over 20, so... Gills will bring his axe up and try and bring it down into you, Ira, as you face him for 22 to hit. Hatchet is 5 slashing. I think what he's going to do is use 15 foot of movement to move around the side of you, Ira, to put himself next to... Is it Schoolie? Yes, to put himself next to Schoolie so that he or Schoolie can't be flanked. But he's still going to stay adjacent to you, Ira, and that will now put him adjacent to both Gunelda and Hangatir as well. But that's all he'll do after he attacks, and it goes to you, Gunelda.
Gunelda, yet again, the foe he's fighting taken out by one of his allies. Excellent. He turns his attention in the chaos to the next nearest foe, Schoolie, and swings for a crit with his sword.
That'll hit. What's the damage?
So I got 7 on the die, but do I just roll my damage die twice?
Dice twice, yep.
Yeah, cool. So that's 14 damage.
He's very bloodied, nearly slain. I'll get you to roll a percentile, please.
Ooh, you got it. 26.
Yeah, you've scored this man enough now, and with that last strike, you recognize the patterns of his movements and techniques, and prophesize somewhat his doom. You gain +2 AC against attacks from the target of your crit, and advantage on all saving throws from effects originating from your target till the end of your next turn.
Nice. That's cool.
And Gunelda, it is his turn now. So with that +2 AC, let's see if he can impale you with his spear. He'll use it in 2 hands and try and stab it around your navel, and then rip it and pull it out with some belly eels. 17 to hit.
Miss.
You step back, seeing the strike the instant before it came at you. He'll stay where he is, fighting back to back with Gills against you. Orn is being dragged away. His corpse being dragged away from the fray. Hangatir. He's the better warrior, but Gills, who's fighting Ira, is better armed and has a shield. So it depends on the better. Yeah. One is harder to kill. One is better at killing. They're back to back, so they're what's that word? Yeah, they're the same distance away from you. Equidistant. Oh, it's fine. Does he though, or is it a futile action? 14. Yeah. He moved 15 feet back, so you can technically get adjacent to the guy who's fleeing with his lord's body. You will provoke from Gills, though. He'll take a swipe at you with his axe. He got pretty good, but an 18 won't do it. Fuck. Cole is slain. Odric 2, headless. Ira, it's your turn.
Ira, locked in battle with Gills, will continue the assault, attempting to find another place to purchase her spear within. But sadly, with an 8 on the die, 13, I don't think that'll do it.
Nearly, but he manages somehow to parry it with his... not parry it, sorry, take it on his shield.
Wait,
Yeah,
I have an effect that I can use.
Ooh.
Sorry, if I may. Was it close? Sorry.
Yeah, it was.
Jeff. Yeah. I have a decree called Guide. So add my Warlord die, which I rolled 6. So that adds it to your attack. Yes.
+6 will hit.
Alrighty. So then that'll be 8 piercing then, as the words shouted by Gunalder will bolster her.
He's now bloodied, is Gills. Svinyan. Oh, I think I might have stuffed up the initiative order. Sorry, and it had Frafengir. Oh no, sorry, it was Hangatir. So now it's Frafengir's turn.
This man carrying the body of their lord, he's limping away, and to prevent him from getting any farther, a 18 to hit.
Describe his demise. He's on 1 hit point with one hand, futilely trying to hold his neck together.
And it's not as gruesome as the arrow before. This just takes him in the base of the neck and the spine, enough to shock his system enough to drop him to the ground as the body kind of falls. Was he carrying him like in his arms, or was he dragging him behind him?
Like, I imagine his hands were up under the man's armpits, like dragging both of them facing backwards the way they were going.
Then, yeah, he falls like on his back, and the body kind of falls on his legs as the gasps through the choking of blood stop.
At that, the brother of Skeety just screams his brother's name, casts the bow, sprints forward into Thrafengir, drawing a short sax, clasping it in 2 hands and trying to bring it down like Jason from Halloween into your chest. 16 to hit all up. Does 16 hit you, Baron?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, so you see the man coming. Maybe you raise your bow up, and the haft of the bow like catches his forearms and keeps the dagger or the short sax at bay a couple of inches from your chest as you begin mortal struggle with the brother of the man that you've just slain. Gills, bleeding badly, will try and shove you down with his shield and then flee. Ira. So opposed athletics, please. DC 23. I don't think that's going to buck the trend.
So I got a 17 on the die. What's my athletics? No, 21. Close, but not enough.
Yeah. He smashes Ira to her knees and then flees towards the woods. So we'll provoke opportunity of attack from you, but you'll have disadvantage.
Yeah, she'll try to strike from the ground using her spear to lend, but with a 9 on the die, that'll be 14.
14's the magic number. Takes him through the angle. Oh no, because he's got this one has the shield, so he's AC 16. Sorry for that. Yeah, it thrusts out, but it just misses him. And he begins to flee off towards the sleety woods beyond.
Dr. Gunelda.
Yep, Gunelda.
So Schooley was Spearman Schooley he was engaged with, who's been dragged off by Hungertier. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he'll look about in the chaos, looking for his next target, and give chase to Gills as he breaks away and tries to flee. So would I be able to catch up to him with my movement, or would I have to dash?
Yep. You'd have to expend your full movement to get adjacent to Gills.
Yeah, I'd do that, and then basically just try and crash tackle him.
Okay. Opposed athletics. Gills will get a 19 DC for you.
That'll be 19. No,
So
sorry, 21.
Okay, that's a success. You catch up to him and smash him in the back and send him sprawling face first into the sleet and blood.
Thought you could get away, huh?
He moans in pain and tries to roll over to contend with you. Schooley will drop his spear. It's useless in so close. Pull out his long dagger and drive it through your foot, Hangatir, for a 19 to hit, which isn't enough, right? To hit a naked guy. Schooley just tries futilely to stab at you, Hangatir, but you skull drag him up to a stop at the corpse of this throat shot archer, and it's your turn. No, the guy who was dragging the body was shot through the neck by Hrafnir. Yep. The only foe adjacent to you now is Schooley, who's trying to cut you. You break his neck. Yeah. 45 feet to your whatever, doesn't matter. 45 feet away from you is Gills on the ground struggling to try and get away from Gunelda, and 30 feet from you is the enraged Ula brother trying to avenge Skeety by slaying Hrafnir. They're locked in melee. Yeah, that hits. Describe his ending. At that, Gills rolls over, casts. Actually, you wouldn't cast your weapon aside if you want to get to Valhalla, but he would plead, "I yield, I yield, I yield!" And you hear this, Ira, as you round upon the man who had wounded you, as you join Gunelda in scrutinizing the last of the enemy's failed attack.
Yeah, she'll drive the tip, not drive, but she'll put the tip of her spear at his back, so that in the event that this is some gambit to get a free strike, she'll be able to run him through quickly and easily. But otherwise, we'll look up to Gunalder.
I think
Drop
I'll
your
just
weapon.
end initiative for now, and you guys can free roam. He will look for you for confirmation that you won't kill him weaponless if he does so.
If we send you from Midgard, we'll send you to Valhalla. Drop your weapon.
He throws it into the bloody snow.
Kneel.
He'll get up from prone and kneel.
And so Ira's got her spear like
To his back.
to his back. So Gunalda will step around now that they have the situation more in hand, and step around to the front of the man. His bloody sword still in hand. In his own mind, bloody it may be, but still no enemies has he slain on these shores yet. But he puts that thought aside for the moment, and stands in front of this man. He doesn't crouch down to meet him face to face. Stands above him as to keep control of the situation, make it very apparent who's in charge.
There's a sudden release of pressure before you, Rafengir, as the enemy who is trying so desperately to murder you is suddenly cut near in half and kicked aside without so much as a care, and Hangatir hauls you up to your feet, that you with him can see that this nighttime raid has been rebuffed and many fresh corpses join those made this morning, as the last of the fighting now is dying out. And you can join your companions with the cornered prisoner kneeling, awaiting fate.
Gunalda will look around to see if he can spy Gunmagan and his men.
Oh, if you wait long enough, you'll see them emerge through the haze and sleet, and much to your chagrin, although they bear light wounds, none of them are stricken mortally. And the blood that's on the arms of Gunmagan and down his front is presumably not his own, given the smile that he wields like a badge. Exultant, no doubt, in his first kill here.
Gunalda's own smile grimaces somewhat, and then returns as he's standing over this captive they have. He'll go over and pick up the man's own weapon. I think it was a sword, you said, or a sax from the snow.
Gil's had an axe.
Oh, he had an axe, yeah. So his own sword in hand, and he'll pick up Gil's axe that he made him drop to the ground. So he's holding one in each hand. And as he spies Gunmagan and his men arriving, he says, "What is your name, friend?"
Gilson. The men call me Gilsvinid.
Gils.
Yes, Lord.
Lay down.
He grimaces in pain as he uncomfortably lays down, his left arm still strapped to his shield.
And he crouches in front of him and places the axe back into his hand and stands back up.
He gulps and closes his eyes like someone hearing a judge's sentence as you do that.
Yeah, Ira, spear point still pressing uncomfortably into his back, even now as he's laying on the ground. We'll just blurt out. Where did you come from? Who sent you here?
Sudbrand lady, from north of here. Thane old legs hold fast.
And I guess from the timing of it, Nico, just so I can kind of try to wrap my hand around it. So would these people would they have been able to have gotten a message from here in the time? Because I'm curious if they came here for us or if they were going to come here either way.
Well, I guess you guys being out at sea wouldn't have seen the rider go from the headland to Feistheimer to warn them of your approach, or carry on from there north to Sudbrand to warn them. But it's like not impossible that a rider could have alerted the nearby Thane to come to the aid of this one. These men, presumably, if that's the case, would have come through fields and such today, thick with those people who would have gotten away from Feistheimer or who had sought the safety out of Sudbrand to the north.
I shall ask anyways, just for clarity. Why did you come here? Was it for us? Did you know?
He nods fearfully at what pain that might earn him, but sees honesty as his only road to tread, nods vigorously and points over to the bloody corpse of the bright-haired, helmeted youth that had been slain, and says, "Our Lord's son, he commanded us, said that he would go against his father's wishes and drive the Gunlanders back into the sea, that he would remember the old oaths."
She'll give a cruel laugh at that. A foolish boy.
A brave
She'll
man,
look up to
he
Gunalder.
corrects you.
Yeah.
Brave and dead. And which were you to follow him? Foolish or brave?
Loyal.
I admire that.
My mother's people, they were from Kolskeg's lands and served his father. That blood called to me, as Orn, son of Oleg, did, and so I came, Lord. He looks down at the axe in his hand. Actually, looks sideways at the axe in his hand because he's already laying down.
Yeah, and there is blood on that axe, right? He
Ira's blood, I
wounded
believe.
Ira. Yeah. What would the All Father do with this one, Ira?
Yeah, she'll take a moment to think. And though she's not sure, like in her mind, what the right answer is, she'll like speak with like a perfect confidence, anyways. You came here to fight. You came here to die. I see no reason why that shouldn't be the case. I suggest you grab hold of that axe. There you go. I suggest you hold on to that axe, boy. You spoke honestly. A proper death is the least that we can give you.
And it is now that Gunalda does crouch down in front of the man, his own bloody sword in hand. And he gestures over with his head towards where Hangatir is chanting and splattering brains. Look over there. His name is Hangatir, chosen of Odin. You'll see him in the corpse hall. And then Gunalda runs the man through with his sword.
Yeah, you spare him from failing at summoning his courage before he dies. I'll roll a grit check to see if he will hold a place for you in Valhall. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
Ira will actually follow through with her word, and she'll like clasp his hands around the axe, promising him a seat. She'll ensure that he gets it.
Yeah, he'll wait for you there. Pour mead for you when you arrive.
Gunalda will stand up and wipe the blood, wipe Gil's blood on Gil's own body on the ground off of his sword. And just keeps an eye.
Stand up afterwards, yeah. Doing a similar thing with her spear, and she'll look to you, Gunalder. Not how you expected your first blood out here to be, I guess, but a kill is a kill.
Kill is a kill. He will be the first of many who will hold a seat for me in the corpse hall. and the smile returns to his face, this broad grin, with some splatters of blood upon his cheeks and eyelids. And he looks over to take stock of their crew. Sees Hangatir working himself out. Sees Hrafngeir around, and a sour look. Well, in his mind anyway, he holds the smile as always. But yeah, meets Gunmug and his gaze across the way.
I'm going to go make sure Hangatir doesn't, and she'll just like leave it hanging. I'll make sure he comes back to our own Midgard here in peace. And she'll like go to ensure that Hangatir's rage does not like accidentally get turned in the wrong direction in the haze, but leave you to do whatever.
Gunmagan and he, bolstered by his men and his first kill, will swagger towards you, Hrafngeir. We stand in the midst of the man that Hangatir had killed to save you. And he will say, the Norns did not deem it fit to cut your skein here, and so spare you the Weirgild to Lord Eric.
It would seem I still have purpose here.
You found the woman, the witness you spoke of?
No.
I see, he says, surveying the battle through a hoarfrost smile.
But it seems you might. First kill.
One of many, I should hope, and he turns his blade, examining it as if it's finally worthy of him.
Hopefully.
If this is the quality of East Asbloth, this blade will drink deep.
Receive many victories.
Your Weirgild to our Lord Eric, he says, not seemingly too concerned by like the wounded men who are helping each other away from the field now, or from the corpses being dragged away unceremoniously.
It seems I have no choice but to oblige.
I will pay our Lord Eric the sum he feels rightful on your behalf, and ask only a small favor of you.
May I know what this favor is?
I would hear it to be certain.
What would you have me say?
You will cast your red knucklebone for me this evening, after we toast the dead a second time.
This is all you ask?
He nods wolfishly.
Okay.
Take these corpses to the pyre, he points with his sword and then turns and walks away from you.
I look to the corpses and look to him and look up into the sky at the sleet falling down upon us and begin moving the bodies.
You guys level up, level 4, and we'll take a break, hey?
Nice.
Cool. I'll be in a couple of minutes. What does it matter between these slight degrees of invulnerability? Yeah, I reckon he could have done
Yeah,
that in
it's
Canada himself.
nasty.
Those guys had to get 18 on the die to hit you at 23. Except for Brighthelm, who just got pulverized instantly anyway. Ooh. If only he hadn't just... Insanity. Piss mushroom juice. The brew.
What a game. I cannot imagine that.
It's hellish.
Yeah. Yeah, full on. God. And it's all like for the glory of Odin, right? It's like he is glad of war and this is his way of war. Like,
yeah, I thought it was wiggy as when Gunalda like prompted that Hangatir should lead them, and I was like, on what planet, like, would you want a mindless insaniac to be your leader? Like, yeah, but he's not clear in battle.
no.
I like that line. You can't go where I
That
go.
was great. Yeah. Yeah. I like to think it's a streak of naivety and like admiration, because obviously Hangatir saved Gunalda, and so he very much looks up to him and would feel weird actually being in charge of him, you know, to an extent. Mm. Yeah, exactly. Well, my whole fucking crew is already. So effective, yeah. I still can't see you in the chat, but yeah, that's very effective. Yeah, between that and all the... Yeah, Jesus. How did you get... Yeah, you got 17 damage, yeah. Yeah, yeah. God damn.
Yeah, the advantage on the roll really helps me be effective at all.
Yeah, it was one of his men.
Yeah, you grabbed him and flung him
Put
around.
him in the way.
That guy's face would have been.
Oh, and Gunmagan is gonna eat shit and hate you even more.
Yeah.
I hate that dude. I want to
Oh,
play so I
same.
can kill him.
Fuck being under that guy's command, yeah.
It's gonna be worse for me, way worse for me then. It hasn't really been good for me yet, but it would
Because he's counting now on your vote. Oh, I love it. I don't think so.
No,
No, he just agreed, but it wasn't oaths.
yeah, I disagreed. If it makes any difference, I killed more guys than he did. You had to make up for the last one.
That's a
I
good
was gonna
point
say
about.
that puts us like even now across the whole thing.
That's a good point about oaths, though. Actually, Lloyd. I guess Gunalda wouldn't have mentioned his oath to Carl Gunilla. Wouldn't have mentioned it to Hungatir necessarily about following and protecting Gunmagan. You know. Yeah, I didn't quite get up to that when I was re-listening, but that's pretty crucial, especially for this session. So I should
the
have.
intent was to swear you to protect and support him.
That's right, support. Yeah.
It's ambiguous enough that I think you're in the clearish.
Yeah.
I didn't vote for him at the captain council, but I did save his life to bring him home to you. She'd be like, "Yes, thank you. That is oath scene 2."
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you got Raffengir to shoot him in the back during the battle, you might go to Helheim.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't have to know about that plot.
Yeah. Oh, imagine that if you just picked up some of Skeety's arrows and then went a sniping. Oh, could have been.
Oh yeah. Mm.
Track him down. Yeah, you're heading back to seek out some shelter and a fire with Ira when the both of you spy Hrafnir and Gunelda in the distance piling corpses for pyres and such, seeing to the battlefield. But between you and they, like in the direction where you walk, two of Eric's warriors, blood-faced and drunk still off the second battle for the day, are quarreling over the war harness, helm, and blade of the slain Orn Olegson before carrying him off to join the others in pyre. Without looking at you, one of them mouths a protest, or the other kind of turns him to face you. You probably look pallid, naked, clothed in a shawl, but still terrifying to them. And they look between each other, remembering well Eric's words not to fight over the spoils with the crewmen of the Nameless. And neither of them want to take on a berserker, even in this unpredictable state. You slew him. One of them dares. They kind of nod to each other as if like it's a salty fact they don't like but accept, and will like dogs shoot away and turn their backs and skulk slowly from it, muttering. Yeah, a chain shirt, spangle helm, and a decently made war axe. Oh, of course, yeah, you already had the blade, but no, perhaps they're quarreling over his war harness and helm.
Yeah, Ira will just shake her head. A sacrifice. A sacrifice for a great victory. ensure more of it comes, perhaps.
I'd say it would be. Imagine those two of Eric's men who see you do that. The shit they have to swallow. But yeah, no one will stop you if that is your will. That would bring you into the midst once you've thrown the chain into the corpse fires. That would bring you into the midst of Thrafengir and Gunalda, finished now at their morbid toil.
Yes. For me to use. I
A
think
sword for
while
a sword, he said. Those were his words. It's just kind of like nod confirming.
I think while me and Gunalder were moving these bodies, I had told him of Gunmagan's desire for me to cast my bones in his favor. So at the mention of the sword for a sword, I would look to Gunalder to see how you would feel knowing that I could betray him.
Did you speak with him?
Yes, but I swore no oath.
So
You're
pay
right.
the debt.
I will.
Gunalda says, like with a gesture of his hands, like, there you go.
And I would take the war sacks, wrap it in some sort of like cloak or tunic or something from one of the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I will do this. And I would leave to find Eric.
There's an older, paunchy man with a bald head, a long roped beard, and his front two top teeth missing, who's tisking while he uses a bone needle and catgut thread to sew up the wounds scored across one of Eric's biceps. He winces in pain, but more of like pain and annoyance than like true anguish at the man's clumsy late night work. Before he shoos him away, needle like half threaded through the gouge in his arm, seeing you come forward towards him with something borne up in his arms. He adopts a lordly posture in the stool that he sits at, and his bondsmen stand the straighter for it as they stand sentinel for their lord. The sleet falls down but does not touch you as you step up onto the awning where he's kind of positioned himself for this battle chirurgeonry, and he greets you by name, remembering it from earlier. Thrafengir, son of Skarn.
My lord. It seems earlier the Weir Game payment was a sword for a sword. And I would
Those were my words.
unwrap the blade of Orn, their leader, his weapon.
He looks at the thing, not marveling, just assessing with one who has sword lore, and he'll take it from you if you let him, and draw it half a length out of the bloody scabbard to inspect the blade. It is of Zealand make. Here, their mark, and he'll thumb where there's like a strange, I shouldn't say strange, not wholly dissimilar from script you've seen before, but certainly not from Iskloft. A thing of decent make, strong for the ages, the kind of sword a father would pass to son. If you will make this offering, I would accept it, and forego the hack silver for this blade, whose worth is of equal or perhaps greater value.
I would give it.
He'll nod, shrink it back into its scabbard, and take the wrapped blade and scabbard from your hands. Examine it one last time before passing it to one of the armed, bloody men next to him. Let it be known then that the weir guild owed to me has been paid, and that life of Agnar which was taken has been maken right. I will see that this blade or appropriate value find its way to his kin. And he says that in an oathly manner, even though he doesn't explicitly say it's an oath. You think it's comfortable to take that from him. Take that it's an oath from him.
I would nod in agreement. If my
Go now in peace then, and think no more on the quarrel between us.
I will. And I'd make my leave.
Son of Scarm, he'll say to your back, stopping you mid-step. Thou art wounded. If you'll see my man here.
Oh, I will.
He gestures to the man who looks like he's thinking protest, but will just shake his head and take up his bloody surgery kit and take to your side and to the mess the arrow had made in your shoulder, and begin working on them. This evening, the call to captaincy, or the council of captaincy of the Nameless, does not occur given the events of the battle, and that many more now are wounded or need rest, that they direly needed even before it had come. And so it's at dawn when the crew of the Nameless, one and all, gather about the hovels that lie closest to the beach, where the Nameless is dragged up. And a fire is summoned up, and cold pork reheated and passed around for the men who have come from their furs at the summonings of Gunblindi and Ira, Hunin and Moonin in this respect, calling them all to a council of wisdom and for the naming of captain of the Nameless. You feel groggy, hungover, sore-headed today, Hangatir, but not so much that you would be stopped from coming to a council such as this, where Odin's wisdom is sorely needed. Despite his age and infirmity, Gunblindi is up, sprightly and early, readied even as the first amongst you begin to file into the low shoreside barn. Gunmagan is there with his men, Grinda and the others. They sit at tables, each making space so that all the crew, 33 now in total, quite a sacred number, can sit within relative sight of each other around the hearth. The smell of wood smoke, men's sweat, the tang of blood mingling with that of the reheated spitting pork, and the elm wood that feeds the blaze between you. Those who are not engaged in conversation or staring at certain people across the room will instead be looking to either Gunblindi or Ira, and gently, gradually, a silence begins to descend, eventually wiping out all the conversation till just the spatter and spark of the fire can be heard as the men and women wait. And Gunblindi will say nothing and do nothing. Push the ritualistic responsibilities onto you, Ira, without so much as a word or gesture. You think that's strange, Hangatir, though I've not doubted the old man before and don't see why you should start now.
Yeah, the surprise will hit Ira too with the same degree as it did Hangatir. She had expected to defer this sort of responsibility to the male and elder of the people here, but then seeing that it's been called upon her, She'll like rather uncomfortably try to posture herself. So then it has come time that the Nameless must decide who will lead it. The fall of the previous captain will come down to the crew to nominate those who they see as valid leaders, those who will bring glory, reputation, and money, she'll say with a bit of a smirk, for the rest of us. By Odin's wish, we will nominate and cast votes, and it is by the gods' sight here upon us this day that our new captain will be seen, acknowledged by us and them.
Men bang their cups or fists upon the tables in assent to the Vale Lander's words, and after a time, silence is found again before a scraping chair interrupts it, and one of Gunmagan's men will stand. Sigvalda, called Finehair. He is of an age with Gunmagan. I nominate our lord-to-be, Gunmagan, son of Gunalfa. He will bring his father's glory to us. He has killed his first man this day. An auspicious moment. Let us in that bloodletting choose him, for who else can stand better and in more prowess than our young bright lord, he says, in respected fashion, and those rehearsed fashion, I should say. And you, keenest amongst you, would note him give a brief look, seeking for approval from the man at the words he's obviously been commanded to give. Gunmagan nods as if it's rightly, and Kunut the Black and Kettle, called Grinder, will bang their mugs and fists in assent upon the table, and so too a near score or so of men. It stops most of it. It doesn't take too long till it's just the fire speaking.
Ira will turn her head expectantly to the rest of the crew, expecting some of the others that they're familiar with to lend a second to the nomination.
The silence of the supporters of Gunmagan is, in a sense, telling of the effect of Hangatir's words, and many of those men that you'd counted upon, or who would assumed would stand for Gunelda, will do so, whether by banging their cups or fists upon the table, or like a grumbling assent nodding between their neighbours. Alm folds his arms across his barrel chest, and the brothers' gear look quizzically about, more excited than closely knowing of the responsibility that that they are privy to. They're looking around like almost like a boy's like excitement at this impressive affair, or impressive to them at least. And as soon it becomes apparent to you, Ira, that no one else will stand to name nomination other than those two who have, Sigvalda and Hangatir.
If there is no one else, that wishes to nominate or present themselves forwards. Then it will come down to a vote. We will cast for whoever we deem right, and the gods will see it done.
Men grumble or speak or nod their assent at this all the way around the 4 long tables that have been set here, till at the last hearing of it, Gunblindi will draw his old trusty short sayax, stand up to some small rising consternation by those seated, until he carves a wicked gouge, a nearly straight line down the middle of the table that he sits at. "Bring forth the knuckle bones," he grumbles. And at that, men will go fumbling in their pockets to where the needful things have been secreted and move forward to place their knuckle bones either to the right of Gunblindi, closest to Gunmagan, or to the left, closest to Gunelda. And slowly the tally begins to rise on both sides. Yeah, you eye Kettle called Grinder, grinds his teeth as he stands uncomfortable in your threatening midst. Despite it, though, will place his red knuckle bone upon Gunblindi's side closest to Gunmagan and stare at you a moment as if that's some pride to take in that mute defiance. Sigvalda Finehair and Knut the Black follow suit. The shorter man, called Knut Svarta, his eyes linger on you a time in quiet challenge, and you think him the most competent and less strutting of the 3 of Gunmagan's most chief-like supporters. He's also older than the other 2 and quieter, but he, like them, throws the red knuckle bones for his lord. The brothers Gear both move to place their red knuckle bones before Gunmagan, though one nudges the other at your glare, hanged lord, and they'll reluctantly place it over, one each, in Gunmagan and Gunelda's favour, so that, in a way, hedging their fraternal bets. So it carries on in this fashion as the other race climbs ever upwards, but still so close. Gunmagan flits between excitement to thinking that he has won, and other times trying to hide his nervousness by adopting that imperious look that nobles do.
Yeah, Ira will walk over from the place that she had been kind of directing the prior ceremonies. And it feels like strange to her to like adjudicate this like as a religious oversight and also still to vote, but as it's her responsibility nonetheless to do both. And she'll place the knuckle bone down confidently in the side of Gunalder, hiding her sort of discomfort within her own self. And then we'll go stand over next to Hangatir to observe, kind of lending more visual aid that the 2 of Odin's children both stand together on this.
Frafengir brings up the tail end of this vote, trying to be quick given these circumstances, to walk up and place his bone to the left, probably making note that Gunmagan is watching me and watching me not vote for him. But I won't make eye contact with him. I will simply place my bone and walk back to my seat.
Yeah, he glares at you, simmering at it, feeling hatred for the supposed lie he thinks you've given light to. You can feel the baleful daggers being thrown from him as he'll stand loudly and walk stridently towards the blind old berserker and place his own knuckle bone in vote for himself, and while there take the time to count the bones that sit either side of the fresh jagged scar. 16 go each way, and the last man steps up. Skalm looks nervous and uncomfortable, where for so much of your life, Frafengir, he's been a rock and a thing of surety. You can see the sheepishness as his furtive glances are cast between the Shield Maiden, the Hanged Lord, yourself, Gunmagan, and even Gumblindi unseeing. With an old man's sigh, he'll produce the red knuckle bone and weigh its worth in his hands, assessing it at a time, before casting it down to roll a few times like a fateful die into the left column. And men begin to shout and bang and call Gunalda, and every time it's joined in the chorus as the new captain is proclaimed, Gunmagan's look grows darker, more menacing, more evil. And away from you, Hrafngeir, and to your father. Then the cockerel crows, and the Nameless go to action. But we'll find out what they do next session, and I think we'll end it right there.
So rad.
Thanks, guys.